and welcome to Joseph's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like, follow, or subscribe to any of these videos that I put out there. I just put them out there where I can and have a holly jolly great time doing so. Now, today's video is a little bit of a quicker one and a little bit of a follow-on to what we were doing in the previous video regarding the petroleum depot and creating a little bit of segregation between the lower level and then the upper level for the return line. Originally, the video was going to be fused with the previous one, but there's just a bit too much going on. And while the canal scene is still not quite finished, we've got a few more parts we're going to explore. At least it's starting to come together. Now, the approach that I've gone for isn't 100% as I was seeing it in my head, but then again, I wasn't really sure what was going on in my head. So I think we've created something that is plausible, usable, and it's not looking too bad. But of course, it's not finished, so I've sort of finished up the end scene in a way that you can still see there's much more that needs to happen, especially now that I'm exploring the idea that behind the signal box we're going to possibly do what we did on this side. And I was always going to have the sort of countryside and the dales sort of following away in the background, but now I'm thinking I might even extend it by going up and over the back line, just like what we did with this particular scene here. I'm not too sure, but the reason why I'm pointing that out at the moment is that I do want to put one of these larger types of a feature tree to the side, and while I think I've got the tree I need, I can't really put it into the scene yet until I develop the rest of it. So just take note on that at the moment. But I think, as you can see, we've managed to finally start to create a bit of a fusion to what was always a little bit problematic with the stormwater running out of the drains going down into the canal, and that's pretty much where we ended up with. So bit for bit, it's starting to take a little bit more. We still have a lot more detail we need to do and scenery on the sides of that canal as it opens its way up into the deep sea ocean. But I think this is a nice little bit of progress we see coming up, and just a nice distraction and something a bit different to what we've been seeing, certainly because we've been very heavy in the past few videos to do with the petroleum depot. So I think it's just something to get a nice change of scene going on, and certainly as we start going on, we're going to see more happening as we construct faulty towers. And of course, the other one going on is creating the finishing scene that goes up and behind the signal box, as mentioned. So let's dive in and see what we've got today. Right, the canal. Before we get started, it's been a while, but don't worry, the goods keep rolling out of that kitchen. Here is some spectacular blueberry pie. Let's get into it. Well, as we get started here, and mentioned in previous videos, we're using this flexible walling from Chooch. This is obviously the steel type of one that you may find on coastal scenes and industrial areas like that. Working with some different paints here, doing our best to try and get a tone and shade of color that seems a bit more plausible for how this works out and a bit more weathered. As you can see, we've done a few different things. I'm not going to give you the recipe because literally I'm just trying a whole bunch of different paints, and then I of course just dusted on some weathering powder in a red rust form and tried to break it down that way. I'm still not entirely happy with this, but we can always come back and touch it up as we carry on. And now it's time to just attach this thing. We're just going to glue this one on with the Gorilla Gel Glue. Great for vertical installation.
You will need to shake this up well. You probably can't see it. There's a little pin in the top of the lid that ensures you won't get a clogged up cap. And I think that's 10 out of 10. So you just go and pop some drops where you need it. You see it's not going to run, it just sits where it's put, which is exactly what we want. So we've just carved these two little bits out at the moment, so I think you can see a little bit of a hollow out there, because in retrospect I shouldn't have put this bit in. I'm not sure exactly why I did do it like this, but anyway, we'll do this. Brown paint, dust of dirt, and we can try and join these scenes up a little bit, I hope. And our go-to procedure, we're just going to take a brush, dip it into a bit of watered down, that's 50% water, 50% swampland green paint. Just get a little sample pot made up, but any brown paint that's tickling your interest will do. Just liberally splash it all on there. And once you've got it on, as you can see, I've just got some dirt, and I'm just going to keep dropping the dirt over it, sprinkling it over, and whatever doesn't stick falls through. Just repeat a few times, and there we go. Okay, so our paint should have dried. Still a few bits of wet stuff I can feel. That's okay. We'll expedite that in the oven if that's the case. The reason I'm just quickly here is I did just, with the leftover paint on the brush it over here, lay a bit of a base coat where it's going to join. I'm going to suck it up with the vacuum now so I don't wake anyone up later tonight as we carry on. Now that may not have seemed like it was necessary, but it'll make some good sense as we start to join this up shortly. Now we're going to glue our sections into place, which look quite good. And to join it up now, we're going to take some scenic cement or diluted PVA or Mod Podge, whatever you're using. And we're now just going to put it down. A few little stones here and there just to create a bit of interest, especially down in the bottom bit of that canal and stormwater. And now we're going to start dumping sand straight on top of it. Bit of a howdy-doody. I can't really catch it and recycle it. I can, but it's not really worth it. It's plentiful in the garden at the moment. So a few stones and things like that as we dust in. Build it up with a bit of extra glue here and there, a few extra stones, really push them in, make sure you're really cementing this scene up nicely, just keep layering and repeating, there's no bad thing. And then we can leave it for a day or two to really make sure it's soaking in. And just while we're waiting on that, let's jump over to the backside for a minute, and what we'll carry on doing is a bit of ballasting. You can see I'm just taking a little bit of the brown paint, and I'll paint that down in between the gap where possible. And then we come back over and we'll dust our ballast in. Remember, we're using the grey on one side and a bit of the brown on the other, sort of indicating a section of line that has been freshly done and another section they'll be doing in the near future. Well, that's been a few days now, so let's grab our vacuum cleaner, fire it up, and start sucking up all that excess dirt that we don't need anymore, which starts to really unveil the scene nicely here. And now just a few carefully deposited bits of just straight PVA glue, just dabbing them into key places here, just to create interest on where you may sort of get your little bit of lichen or the little bit of mold and the moss sort of growing. And all we do at that point, once we sort of dust it on, we're just going to take some of our fine green turf or some sort of a flocking or any of that sort of fine green scatter that you might have, not static grass, and just sprinkle it into these places as needed. And I think, as you can see, what I'm trying to do here creates a reasonable type of image. Then it's just a matter of grabbing that vacuum cleaner and giving it a bit of a tickle to basically reveal what we've got at the moment. And if I've missed any spots, you can re-dump some back over. But again, really the first one is all you're going to need for this. Now, for whatever reason, once again, I forgot to hit record at the start of this, but we're on to the static grass again, which is just a matter of gluing down the glue and then sprinkling it on. And of course, then we suck it up with the vacuum cleaner, and then we reshake it back on again. And often this is where we'll go from a smaller, like a 2mm static grass, to a 4mm. The whole idea is it's all about layering. We just keep building it up and up. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of the flock over. I think this is just a fine green, but I really think I should have used spring, but it doesn't matter. Just pointing out here, just a few tufts that we've sort of pre-put in there. I think that's going to break it up nicely. Now we'll start with a little bit of our realistic water with the brush, and we'll just brush it into areas that would be getting a bit moist. Of course, now we're just going to take our woodland scenic ripples and going to put them into place and create a bit of motion with the water. Now, the bit that's just coming out of that stormwater drain, of course, it could be using the ripples, but I actually did use our UV resin that I made mention of in earlier videos, how to model bioluminescence. and of course the mountain bike splash. So if you haven't seen those videos, jump back and check them out, and they'll show you how to use that product to create that idea. Once they're in place, then we come back with the water ripples and build up a little bit of foaming there for the initial splash that would be touching down there. I also just take a bit inside the stormwater pipe to build a little bit of the backflow to make it look like it would be coming out. Not perfect, but it's okay.
Well, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it's all about. I think the progress is looking fantastic. I'm still not 100% sure if I like the kind of rippling effect I'm trying to create, as though obviously they've had a shower or someone's done a bit of a clear out and some water started coming out of the storm water and flowing down and creating a bit of movement to it. But we're going to leave it like that because unfortunately, it does look good, but to get down onto the angle you actually need to have your eyes coming down to about this eye level on the cabinet work. And of course, because it's there, you need to come in and look over. So a little bit tricky, but maybe in the future we're going to dig up those magical shots that I can certainly see with my eyes when I'm in a particular angle. So rest assured. But I think it's something a little bit lush, and we're starting to join that up. And bit for bit, those sections are closing in on the layout and starting to get a little more completed as we go. Well, that's going to do it now. So look, thank you so much, particularly for some of you that have been joining me since basically the very start. And I do say it because while I do say don't follow, like, or subscribe, I'm all the time amazed at the amount of people that have been following this little journey of what we've been doing. And I try and keep it a bit varied. And again, we're going to be taking a few more videos that are going to stray away from model railway and look at some other things. But we'll always keep mixing them all up a little bit as we keep going on. So, as always, please do stay safe. And I'll look forward to seeing you in that next one. Toodles!